With Rambo Last Blood hitting theaters just around the corner, I thought it'd be fun to revisit the Rambo sequels. Let's take a look. Hey guys, my name is Brandon, aka the BrandoCritic, and on this channel it's my job to point you in the direction of movies worth checking out. So if it interests you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. And yes, today we are revisiting the Rambo sequels in preparation for Rambo Last Blood. So the first movie on our list is Rambo First Blood Part 2. So in Rambo First Blood Part 2, we have John Rambo, played again by Sylvester Stallone, and he's serving his prison sentence because of his actions in the first film. He is then visited by his old colonel, Colonel Troutman, played again by Richard Crenna, and he offers Rambo a mission in return for the termination of his prison sentence. The mission is to go back to Vietnam and recon a Vietnamese military base for American prisoners. The American military secretly hopes that Rambo does not find anything so that the rumblings of POWs still existing in Vietnam can be silenced. However, with the help of a young Vietnamese agent, Co Pao, played by Julian Nixon, Rambo discovers that the base has multiple American soldiers still taken prisoner. After Rambo rescues one, however, the American military abandon him in an attempt to keep the POW story a secret, thus Rambo getting captured once again. Now it's up to Rambo to escape the Vietnamese military base, along with all of the American prisoners inside. So the main thing I can say about Rambo First Blood Part 2 is that it definitely feels that the action came first and the story came second, unlike the first movie that actually felt just like a pure drama with some action scenes in it. And right from the beginning, you know what kind of movie this is. You know, like right off the bat, John, I have a mission for you. Do you want in? Oh yeah. Boom, boom, Rambo First Blood Part 2. And then, you know, a lot of slow motion shots of Sylvester Stallone's just greased up muscles getting ready for battle. And you know what? It's fun. Again, it's stupid, but it's fun. And looking back on it now, you can definitely see how cheesy it is, you know, but this is a fun movie. I can't lie to you. However, I will say that the story and the character development, it feels extremely hollow. You know, they give Rambo a sort of a love interest with this Vietnamese agent, and you know, they're talking on the boat, and it just feels so forced. It feels just so plain and bland, and I get what they're trying to do. They're trying to get someone to relate to Rambo, or at least try to, you know, get Rambo to talk about his feelings and stuff. But again, this movie isn't that kind of movie. This movie exists for explosions, action, helicopter chases, and just 80s badassery. And this film gives us that. However, I will say that as soon as this movie was over, I was kind of forgetting about it. You know, some of the action scenes, they definitely are entertaining, but the first movie, the story was just so compelling, and it was so intriguing, and the characters were so rich, and it had a great character clash. But in this movie, it just feels like Rambo versus a bunch of dudes that we don't know, we don't really care about, and a villain who's just there because he has to be there. You know, he's evil because he's the bad guy. You know, we don't know anything about him, can't connect with him, and, you know, he doesn't really feel that threatening. You have no doubt in your mind that Rambo can just go into the camp, shoot everybody, free the prisoners, and go home. You know, there's not that much tension. So other than a couple cool action scenes, this movie is just okay. Therefore, I'm only gonna give it a 2 out of 5. You know, not the worst movie in the world. It wasn't insultingly bad. It was entertaining, but, you know, as soon as the movie was over, it's just kind of forgettable. However, in Rambo 3, we are able to connect to the characters just a little bit more than this movie. So let's take a look at the story. So in Rambo 3, John Rambo is living in Thailand, away from war, occasionally fighting in some underground matches, but overall, he's living a simple life. And of course, Colonel Troutman visits John Rambo and asks him to join a CIA-based operation to assist the Mujahideen against the invading Soviet Union in Afghanistan. Rambo turns down this offer simply because he is done fighting and needs to move on with his life. However, Colonel Troutman is then captured shortly after his arrival in Afghanistan, and after Rambo is informed about this, he's given permission to undertake a solo mission to rescue Colonel Troutman from the Soviets. So with the first movie feeling more like a drama with some action scenes in it, and the second movie just feeling like an 80s over-the-top action fest, this movie feels a bit more Hollywood. And that's a good term to use for it, because when looking back at the second movie, Rambo 3 definitely has a jump in production value in terms of just the cinematography, its sound design, and its action. But then again, you have those just 80s action movie tropes that almost every other action movie did back in the 80s. You know, you gotta have a kid in there. You know, Indiana Jones had Short Round, now Rambo has this little Afghan kid. And again, he's not in the movie for very long, he's not really annoying or anything, but he is there, and there is some forced comedy which kind of works some parts. I mean, I did laugh at the one point when John Rambo has those little blue glow sticks things, and his friend is like, oh, what do these do? And he's like, they turn blue. you know, expecting them to be some kind of explosive, and you're just like, oh, you know what? It's gonna come up later in the movie and it's gonna help them out, you know, ha ha ha. And then there's just some one-liners, but again, you know, it's the 80s, it's cheesy, you'll roll with it. But there's one moment in this movie which I actually really liked, and it's the scene where John Rambo's talking with the Mujahideen fighters about what they want to do, but then they talk about why they fight and why that they care so much about their people and their land and why they do the things that they do. And they're able to connect with each other on a deep emotional level, and you understand why these people are fighting for what they're fighting for. And it's a touching scene, and it's really great to see, and it is great to see Rambo kind of connect with another group of people. And it makes you care for the Mujahideen fighters against the Soviets. But again, like Rambo First Blood Part 2, you know, the Soviets are just placeholder villains. You know, you do have like the King Soviet, but again, you don't really know anything about him. You know, he's not the sheriff from the town. You know, it's not like a character versus character thing like in First Blood. It's just Rambo versus the Soviets. You know, if they made another Rambo movie in between Rambo 4 and this one, it might be the North Koreans. It might be, you know, just any kind of villain. But the Soviets serve their purpose in the movie. They are the bad guys that Rambo has to fight. And of course, the action is extremely enjoyable, and it's definitely a step up from the second movie. So with that being said, I don't give out 0.5s, but if I would, I'd give it a 2.5. You know, it's right in the middle. But I'll be optimistic. This movie was better than the last one. I'm going to give this movie a 3 out of 5. I did enjoy my time with it, and I do feel like the character moments actually do lift the movie up, and it does actually have some emotional investment in the characters, unlike the second movie. Now we get to Rambo. Again, the title of this movie, it just baffles me. Make it Rambo 4, make it Rambo with some kind of cheesy subtitle, whatever it is. Now it's just confusing. We have Rambo 3, now Rambo, and then Rambo Last Blood. Rambo feels like it should be at the beginning. You know, it's a series that totally just forgot its title. You know, First Blood, Rambo First Blood Part 2. Shouldn't it be Rambo 2 First Blood Part 3, and then Rambo 3 First Blood Part 4? I digress. But let's talk about Rambo 2008. Let's just call it that for sake of argument. So John Rambo is back in Thailand living a simple life. This time capturing snakes and selling them and providing boat rides to people up and down the river. He is visited by a missionary doctor from Colorado named Michael, played by Paul Schalze, and his wife Sarah, played by Julia Benz. They lead a group of humanitarians in hopes to provide medical aid to a small village in Burma. The main problem is that Burma is a war zone. The State Peace and Development Council, or SPDC for short, have been pillaging villages, killing many innocent people, as well as taking the young men and recruiting them as soldiers for themselves, and taking the women as sex slaves. But after a little convincing, Rambo agrees to take the missionaries up the river and into Burma. However, while giving aid to the people of the village, the SPDC attack, killing hundreds of innocent people and abducting many of the missionaries. Rambo is then asked by a pastor of the missionaries' church to guide a group of mercenaries into Burma on a rescue mission. Now, Rambo was actually only hired just to be a transport for the mercenaries. However, we know Rambo. We know what he's gonna do. But in this movie, and I'm warning you right now what I'm about to show you, this movie is fucking violent. Like, oh my god, is it violent. Obviously, this movie being made in the time of CGI, we're definitely allowed to show a lot more bloodshed, but holy crap, is this movie just full of bloodshed and carnage. And it's a bit tough to watch in some certain scenarios because you see it all. You know, you see innocent people just getting shredded to bits. You see children being stabbed. You see women getting raped. It is a tough movie to watch. So this movie is not for the faint of heart. I'll tell you that right now. This movie is intense. If you guys can handle action movies, then great. But this movie is something else. However, I will say this. This movie, because of all its carnage and bloodshed, it does differentiate itself from the earlier Rambo movies. This is Rambo of the 21st century. And holy crap, is it violent. Now the story, again, is extremely simple. It's basically Rambo First Blood Part 2 told over again, but in the 21st century. But the reason why this movie works and why it was so gripping and so intense, obviously because of the bloodshed, but because of the villains. Now, the villains are weak villains. Let me say that right away. They don't really have much of a motivation other than just to go around into villages and, you know, kill innocent people. But that's all you need in this movie. It's so simplistic that it works. The main object of your villain is to make sure that you dislike them and you want the hero to defeat them. Now, obviously you want your villains to be complex and have character motivations, but just seeing how horrible these people are. Like, for example, the movie starts with this army getting a bunch of prisoners, making them walk across a little swamp, but the swamp is full of landmines, and the people are putting bets to see who will make it to the other end of the swamp. You just hate these people. You see them pillage villages, you see them kill hundreds of people, you see them stab children, you see them rape women, and they are just so hateable. Even though you don't know anything about them, you hate them with a passion. And because of this, you want to see Rambo and the mercenaries succeed. Simple as that. So while this movie is not complex at any means, the story is extremely simple, but this movie is just so intense that I say it is worth a watch if you are an action movie fan. I'm gonna give Rambo a 3 out of 5. And that's all I have to really say about it. It is just full with so much bloodshed that you hate the villains and you want to see the heroes succeed. And with an hour-and-a-half movie, that's all you can really ask for. And I enjoyed it. Anyways, guys, tell me what your favorite Rambo sequel is down in the comment section down below. And if I had to rank all the Rambo movies, First Blood, Rambo, Rambo 3, and Rambo First Blood Part 2. Where does Rambo Last Blood fit into that? Well, we just gotta wait to find out. Anyways, guys, if you're new to the channel and you want to see more videos like this, definitely hit subscribe, and thank you so much again for watching. Take care.